Hello, and thank you for tuning into this informative argument for increased gun control granted by the Liberals' proposed Bill C-71. Unfortunately, even now, in 2018, we live in a world that is plagued by gun violence. A mass shooting can no longer be adequately recovered from because another seems to happen so soon afterwards. In a recent article published by CBC, one statistic expands upon all Canadian gun deaths from 2000 through 2016, illustrating that 75% are on account of suicide, 20% are homicide, 2% are accidental, 1% are legal interventions by law enforcement, and the remaining 1% is undetermined. Taking these facts into consideration in our current political atmosphere, access to firearms should be more restricted through the implementation of Bill C-71, because at the end of the day, no one should live in fear of losing their life. Just recently in Canada, we saw this haunting phenomenon hit us right here at home when a mass shooting occurred in Toronto on Danforth Avenue when a gunman opened fire on innocent civilians. This normalization of guns and gun violence serves as a detriment to society. Lenient laws pertaining to the acquisition of firearms has a detrimental effect on the morale and integrity of vulnerable groups. Groups such as school children and workers in a workplace more than ever before are living in an atmosphere of fear and impending doom in light of recent mass attacks around the world and in our country. Imagine being a child who is constantly bombarded with media exposure to school shootings. No one should have to live in fear for their lives when all they want to do is get their education. It is important for us to examine this complicated issue through a utilitarian lens, weighing the possible good with the possible bad, and always prioritizing the greatest good for the greatest number of people. As a young adult today, it is paramount that we stop being complacent bystanders and take initiative and make gun violence an issue of the past. Would you be able to forgive yourself in 30 years knowing that you could have been one of the voices to save lives? Furthermore, increased restrictions on firearm access have the capacity to decrease the number of individuals killed by firearms annually. One article indicates that there is an obvious negative correlation with gun control and homicide rates. This means that as gun control increases, gun violence decreases. This clear indication provides enough of an argumentative backbone that even gun owners should realize the ramifications of gun violence and come to the mutual agreement with those who are pro-gun control that ultimately the ends of ending gun violence are justified by the means of reducing access to firearms on all fronts. Even if hobbyist gun owners do not favor new legislation restricting gun ownership, it would be difficult for anyone, regardless of their opinion, not to concur with the aforementioned observation and agree that increased gun control is in all of our best interest. Unfortunately, today there exists a perception that weapons used in the commission of firearm-related offenses are purchased through illegitimate means. One study refutes this claim, showing that only half of the guns used in the commission of firearm-related offenses are obtained illegitimately. This means that the other half of guns used by criminals were obtained through legitimate channels, and in theory, could have been taken out of the hands of those violent criminals before they even had a chance to use them. The false perception of all criminal guns being sourced from illicit channels is a dangerous mentality that, via its inherent ignorant nature, threatens our private and social security. If you were told that a foreign generic medication was killing its users, would you not have any questions about the national equivalent made from the same ingredients? No one should ever have to suffer on account of the pro-firearm access belief that only illegal guns are used to do illegal things. Current laws around background checks for prospective gun buyers provide far too large a margin for error. With the implementation of Bill C-71, buyers would have a rigorous search fit for the 21st century conducted in order to properly vet gun owners. Anything posted online or written on social media that may present a public risk could be grounds for denial of service from the firearm retailer. This in-depth search provided by the new legislation could find patterns in certain individuals' lives that, through research, can correlate with violent tendencies, allowing for more proactive retail approaches. In conclusion, it is clear that the burden of protecting future generations from the violence and bloodshed of gun violence lays on our shoulders. And through the implementation of Bill C-71, we can begin to make strides in creating a safer environment for the sake of posterity. Taking into consideration that gun control versus gun violence produces a negative correlation, the existence of a sufficient argument for more intrusive background checks, the quantity of legally owned firearms used in illegal activity, the fear in vulnerable groups, and the many facets of gun violence, we should come to the collective understanding that gun control is in all of our best interests. Thank you for listening.